Welcome to the Speaking from Our Hearts podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about many aspects of life, particularly health, relationships and wealth-related topics, all from a heart-centred approach. Your host, Paul Lowe, has a long and successful history of helping others through his coaching and mentoring, as well as his many charitable initiatives. He's been responsible for positively impacting thousands of people's lives, particularly young people from challenging backgrounds. Paul is the author of the books Mastering the Game of Life from Pain to Purpose and Speaking from Our Hearts.
Welcome, listeners, to this Speaking from Our Hearts podcast episode, where today I'm joined by a lady from British Columbia, a lady by the name of Ling Agaran. So, Ling, very, very warm welcome to you.
Thanks, Paul. It's so great to have me here.
And, yeah, you're going to be talking to us today, I believe, around, and I think your chosen title, Ling, is Swapping Stuckness and Limiting Beliefs for Passion and Purpose. Right, okay. Start us on the journey then, Ling.
So, my background is I've been a makeup artist for 10 years. And I had this limiting belief that makeup artists cannot generate wealth or we cannot make money from our passion. So I stayed back and played it small and working a 9-to-5 job in a corporate world because I couldn't make my passion as a full-time job. So it stayed as a side hustle, or if you call it, I call it a weekend side hustle because that's when I usually will be able to work on my passion. So for the last 10 years, I had a 9-to-5 job. I was working so much for so little, and that's not because I couldn't that's not because I felt like I couldn't make my passion. It's just because of my own limiting beliefs and society where we couldn't make money from our passion. So I took someone else's limiting beliefs or society's limiting belief and made it my own. And that limited me from going after my dreams, and it limited me from being, I felt like I wasn't stepping into my greatness, but I knew deep down that I could do more. But I didn't because I was too scared, or I had the fear of failing. So I stayed here, and then I would just work on my passion on the weekend. And then 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I decided that I had enough and I was going to go and chase my passion. I gave myself a year and said, I'm going to go after it, see what happens. Now, I would never recommend the artists quitting their full-time job. It was just something that I felt, it was almost like a struggle the last 2 years into my 9-to-5 job. I felt like I was struggling to be happy, that I almost felt guilty that why am I not happy to this 9-to-5 job? And this is a good, secure job, but yet I wasn't completely happy, and I felt like deep down I wasn't reaching my full potential. And it got to a point where I couldn't be myself anymore. So I decided that I was gonna leave, and I knew that it was a risk. It was a risk, but it was a calculated risk for me. And I knew that I didn't know, I had no plan. I didn't have any business plan. I just knew that I needed to find something and go after it. And so that saying, forget the how and just allow, is exactly what I've done. I took the leap of faith and said to myself that I'm going to go chase after my dream. And if it didn't work out, there is really not much, what's the worst that could happen? And I just kept asking myself until I got to a point where, okay, if you left your 9-to-5 job, what could happen? And then I just kept asking, so what? And then what? And then what? And then, okay, so I didn't have a job. Okay, so then if it didn't work, I could always get another job. Then what? Then I could keep doing what I'm doing, but at least I got out of that and followed my dreams. And I felt like I was still young and I needed to do this in order for me to not regret anything in the future. So that's kind of what I did. I left, I followed my dream, and then a year and 8 months later, I have built a personal premium brand as an international makeup artist. I had clients flying me to Bali, Spain, Netherlands, Belgium to help them with their branding or their destination wedding. And I started with that. I specialized with the destination wedding. When I left, all I knew was I wanted to be an international makeup artist, and I wanted to create something for myself that I could be proud of. And so that's exactly what I've done. And next thing I know, I literally I made a conscious effort every single time that I would go and do this job, that I would network with people, and then position myself. And I studied how to be a makeup artist. Even though I had the skills to be a makeup artist, I didn't know how to position myself in that industry. So what I did is I would get up every single morning after I've left my job. I would get up every single morning and take inspired, determined action to be that person, to be a makeup artist. What is it to be a makeup artist? What do I need to do to get to my goal as a makeup artist, as an international makeup artist? And every single day, that's exactly what I've done. Studied that person, became that person until I was that until I that person. And I've worked with world renowned bridal designers, and I literally have pushed my boundaries to the limit and stretched myself. And then next thing I know, I was writing a book, and that's another story, but I ended up writing my own autobiography. And then now I'm in a position to coach and mentor other beauty artists to do exactly what I've done in my business, so they too can have the life they deserve and what they wanted. Because in our industry, we feel that is the limiting belief, that we could never be greater than we just a makeup artist or just a hairstylist. And I'm really, really proud of where I've been, because now I can use my skills and my knowledge to coach these girls, these makeup artists, these beauty artists, to do exactly what I've done. Because it's your dreams is so powerful. And you wanted to get there, you can, and it's limitless what you can do if you really wanted to go there.
Wow. Okay. Wow, where do we start? Where do we unpick all that lot? Fantastic. I mean, interesting you said about the action and the commitment and the focus. What was the thing though, Ling? I mean, with those kind of attributes, focus, determination, commitment, you can go down any path, because they're common traits of successful entrepreneurs, aren't they? So, but what made you choose the one thing called makeup artist? What had you got a background? Why that particular?
Well, I've always been an artist at heart. At a young age, since I think I was about 14 when I discovered my artistry. But I feel like I've always had that background. But I'm also from the Philippines, and it's funny because I always say this is the culture. In order for you to be successful, you sometimes, like in society, you have to either be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or some sort of an amazing profession. And I was never really interested in that. I had no interest in that. And but I've always stuck to my creativity and makeup. And I don't really know where the makeup came from. I just knew that I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the beauty. And it was actually more, at first I thought, it was like I didn't know what this makeup is. Like I had no idea. I was just going by the motion at that time. But now that if I look back at it, it was actually more of a skin deep. Like I obviously had quite a bit of insecurities when I was growing up. Who doesn't, right? But now I've actually used that artistry to express myself as an individual because I always felt like I was an outsider. So makeup was my escape to express my individuality.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. So, in terms of your marketing, then, I mean, from this vision, this passion, this intuition, I think it's all of those things hearing you speak, Ling. But how did you then market yourself? I mean, I know you said you went to networking and what have you, but I mean, that's a kind of meteoric rise from, from that kind of in a very competitive market, to use your words. But you went from sort of ground level to, international level in relatively no time at all. There must have been some phenomenal marketing that underpinned that.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty. It's funny because everyone asked me that, and so I was already known in my local. I've already built that portfolio in my local area, so everyone already knew that my skills is up there. But when I decided that I stopped playing small, that I wanted to go from a local makeup artist to international, I actually did not have any marketing background. I didn't know what to do. I did a lot of try and error. What I did is when I quit my 9 to 5 job, I knew that I had no minute to spare, that I needed to go running, get to work, and I had no idea what that meant. All I knew was I was just going to get some signs, and I felt like I would lay awake at night and thinking, how am I going to market myself? How am I going to go from local to international scale? And it was the scariest thing, but I felt like what pushed me there, beside the actual marketing point of that, is fear and desperation. So what I did was I kind of looked at other makeup artists in the area, or the most influential makeup artists, and I've kind of almost looked at and mimic what they were doing, but I couldn't really understand what that is. So I went in, and thank God for Google. So I just started looking at things and who I can collaborate with. I ended up being part of a community of hair and makeup artists. They were doing a lot of portfolio building, and so I decided that in order for me to get out there is I needed to build a premium brand as well as premium portfolio if I wanted to get a premium clientele. So that's where my mind was going, because I was like, in order for me to get to an international scale, I needed to put myself out there. So I collaborated with a bunch of artists, bunch of photographers. The first collaboration I did was actually in New York, and I called this guy my mentor back then, and I went and it was a portfolio building in New York. So I joined, and it was a lot of money at this point at that time, but I needed to start somewhere. So I needed to get my foot in the door somehow. And I thought this was a huge opportunity. So I ended up going to New York, ended up meeting all these amazing wedding people in the industry and higher caliber photographer, world-renowned photographer, wedding designers, and I just made that network and connection with them. So when that was done, I came back to Canada with this whole new world in front of me, and I didn't even realize that there is other world out there. So when I got back, I made a point of calling them and networking and letting them know that I am available if they need me. Next thing I know, I became the lead makeup artist for Versace Mansion, and that's when my career took off. Social media is huge for me as far as my marketing. I zone into, because I already had built few months into this, after New York, a few months into it, I built this premium brand, and there is a lot of makeup artists. It's very saturated industry, but what I've done is I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to share my voice, inspire others, used my story to say that you can do this. So it was very authentic, and I was posting on social media. I was reaching out to people that it was so uncomfortable for me, and that's not me at all. I would have never done that, but I did. If I wanted to get there, I needed to be uncomfortable, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling, reaching out to people you don't know, putting yourself out there, showing your skills, and I grew from that. When I collaborated with people, and then one job leads to another. Next thing I know, when I did end up doing the Versace Mansion, becoming the lead makeup artist for Versace Mansion, I had a client looking at me through social media, and this isn't about paid marketing. This is all about free marketing for me. I knew how to work social media. I studied social media. I knew there's so much into it that I was literally in the background. I was overwhelmed and I was dying, and I didn't think I was gonna get there, but I pushed, I persevered, and eventually I was seen. And in the saturated world, I made myself known. And from that, I had client reaching out to me, but like I said, would fly me to Bali to be their makeup artist for their wedding day, which is such an amazing thing, because that is actually my passion. At that point, even now, I still do. Being part of a bride's day is an honor. And then next thing I know, I had clients who have their business that wanted me to do their makeup on their branding photo shoot. Now that's another level. So I took those opportunities, and I became an international makeup artist. And the more I did it, and the more I put myself out there on social media, the more I got clients. But then I needed to get a little bit farther than that. Now I need to stretch a little bit more. And I studied paid marketing. And when I knew how to work paid marketing, and I knew how to generate traffic from both paid and free marketing, that's when my business exploded.
Right, so yeah, you've kind of confirmed what I thought, that obviously you've got this passion, which is massive, because that'll drive you along your journey, but you need a very good gearbox as well, and that metaphoric gearbox was your social media marketing, wasn't it? That makes great sense to me now, Ling. Great sense. Yeah, okay. Interesting there that a few times, Ling, you mentioned that word fear, and I love to hear that word fear, because it automatically conjures up this contrasting, polarized alternative of love. Mm-hmm. Am I oversimplifying that? Is that something that you share, that in life we have a simple choice to embark upon a path of fear or love?
Yeah. So, I mean, the fear thing was a huge thing for me. I mean, I feel like I've been on this train of fear since I became a makeup artist and playing it small, and that's what kept me small. And I wrote this on my book, where and it's true. It's really that simple. Your fear keeps you. It doesn't make you. It doesn't allow you to go after what you could be great at, if you may. So in my book, I said, in fear, either you face everything and rise, or you forget everything and run. That's what I kept going in my head when I would have this fear. You've got two choices, right? You face everything and rise, or you forget everything and run. Which one do you choose? And I've chosen facing everything and rising. That's simple. It's that simple, because I mean, I'm sure this is so cliche, because it's really true where I'm at right now. And I used to think this is cliche as well, because it's like your greatness is on the other side of your fear. Because if I didn't squash that fear, I would have never grown, and I would have not been able to share my knowledge and my skills to other people. and I'm super excited about this, is because now it's not only that I found my passion as a makeup artist. My passion has led me to my purpose, and my purpose is to share my voice and inspire others. And you can, I mean, it's insane for me to say this, because I love the fact that I can inspire others just from that little thing. And now I get to share my wisdom and my knowledge to other artists, so they can follow their dreams and their passion to be this amazing, great makeup artist. And they can have a lifestyle that they desire through that.
Yeah, I was listening to you there about finding your voice. It just echoed Stephen Covey, the late great Dr. Stephen Covey, and I think it was his 8th habit, Ling, when he said, "Find your voice and inspire others to find theirs." And I love that, because, essentially that's what Speaking from Our Hearts as a podcast is about: inviting people on to speak their truth, whatever that may be. Whether the world agrees with it as one or as a collective, well, that's their choice. There's an old saying, isn't it? We talk about cliches and adages and all that stuff, but, what the world thinks about me is none of my business. I don't really care. Because, to quote, the eminent, beautiful Shirley Bassey, when she sang that song from the 60s about "This is my life and I don't give a damn for lost emotions. I've such a lot of love I want to give. Let me live, let me live." And I like the reinforcement that you gave there, Ling, around the choice element, because it is absolutely a choice. But I think when we're paralysed in fear, that can be so difficult for people to comprehend. So difficult.
I think so too. I mean, I stayed there for 10 years in fear, right? And so, but I think what is if you want to start somewhere and to squash that fear, what I did, and this is personally what I've done, is when I decided that I was going to face everything and rise, I made a choice. And don't be wishy-washy about this. You make a choice, and don't dwell on it too much. If this is something that you want to do, you make a choice right here and right then to commit that this is where you want to go. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you don't commit, it's that whole commitment thing, because if you don't commit, you're going to be wishy-washy, and it's like you're going to take forever, and you're going to stay there. So just decide that you're going to be this person, or you're going to achieve something for yourself. Whatever that is, just make a commitment and go for it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And one of the things I continually propound, Ling, is going back to again the very first podcast about mastering life is as simple as ABC, and listening to you speak there, it just reminded me of that. And people, "No, Paul, it's not that simple." Yeah, it is that simple. What actually is harder is to live with this doubt, to live with this fear. That's hard work. It really is. And when we strip that out, but I mean, I think, to be fair, like you said, Ling, it took you 10 years. And I would venture it took me probably 3-4 times longer than that. So, to be fair to the global, the global audience, so to speak, it's, we are crippled by the realities of human nature. And I think that's where mentoring comes in, isn't it? To have somebody, to guide you, to inspire you, to say, okay, look, I understand, I feel your pain, I understand your limitations, but they're all figments of the mind. Don't let the mind bully and control you, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're programmed from our ancestors, right, to be conscious and not stretch your limit, because it's like when you're in fear, when you're coming from fear, you think you're in danger. That's what I felt. It's like, I'm in fear, I have anxiety, I can't go there because I don't know the unknown. And again, that's like double fear, right? You're fearful to get there, but then once you're there, you're also now have this fear of you don't know what's going to happen to you on the other side of fear. So it's like, it's really I mean, I think we analyze it too much. I really do. I really think we just analyze it too much. And from my experience, when you're in fear mode, sometimes that's almost like a sign that you need to jump. That's almost a sign that you need to change something, because you're so fearful of something. Obviously, when you're thinking about this and you keep thinking about it over and over again, that's really where you need to go. And what you just need to do is you just have to be aware with that fear and keep asking it, why am I fearful? And then what happened when I get there? What's the worst that could happen? And just keep asking, so what? So what? And then what's going to happen? Until you get to a point where the worst thing that could happen, and then you can analyze that and say, actually, you know what? That isn't so bad. That's fine. I'm going to go. I'm just going to get there. And life is too short. Again, I'm saying life is too short because it really is. Life is too short to not do what you're passionate about. Because there's a lot of, and I always say this, it's like there's so many things in life that are mediocre. And in my experience, my career, my passion, it shouldn't be one of them. And of course, love, right? Like that shouldn't be one of them. And so I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. You've got nothing to lose. You've got one life. Make the best of it.
Yeah. What would you say, Ling? A comment I hear at least semi-consistently, oh, it's all right for you. You know a lot of people. You've got it sorted. You can use all these fancy words and talk like this. What would you say to people that's kind of, I suppose, stuck in that, and that's not a judgment because, as you say, you spent 10 years there, I've spent decades there. It's a reality of our lives. But what would you say, Ling, to inspire people to kind of get beyond that limiting belief?
Okay. If you met me 2 years ago when I was in this 9-to-5 job, I never had these fancy words. I didn't know outside of that bubble. So I wasn't self-developed, if you may say. I didn't speak like this. I never really spoke like this. And what I did is I needed to start in myself. And so I did a lot of self-development. I studied other people that are successful. I listened to them. So the mentors, I looked up to them. I watched their videos. I studied what they're doing, what their habits are. So really, I never found this voice. I didn't have this voice 2 years ago or less than 2 years ago. I just found it probably a year into it. And I started doing a lot of discovering and self-awareness and being conscious exactly what I want and letting the universe and whatever that is, that could be your God, it could be your universe, that could be your higher self. I just believe that it's taking me to where I needed to go. And really, it's just a lot of self-development and it's actually more of self-development more than the business side of it for me. And then once I was aware of that, the business side, that's really what I would say is work on yourself, figure out who you want to be, figure out what your passion is, figure out what that purpose that you want to share to the world, and go from there and take it day by day. You don't need to go 20 steps ahead. I took it day by day. I really I really just took little things every day and say, what do I want to focus on today? And what do I want to accomplish to get to where I want to be, the best version for myself?
Yeah, it's a great line in the sand, isn't it? And I think it's having the patience and the F word that we've used a few times, Ling, that faith to know that, okay, listen, I'm starting here. Do I have all the answers? No. But I'm going on a voyage of discovery. Where will that take me? I don't know. But I know it has to be better than this. And I think once you start out on that almost crude, basic way of thinking, it just progresses. But I love what you said, particularly around that faith and that, that connection to the higher source, because that is, I believe, from having spoken to, countless people around the journey, that energy, what is that source? What is that something that defines them from leading an extraordinary life to just leading an ordinary life? And it is without doubt that source, whatever that may be. And I think personally, and this is kind of, and I love it when I love that reflection and hearing myself, and this is kind of the epitome of source, really, saying I. So, is it you then, Paul? Is it your ego? Because all I'm hearing is I think, I believe. But I think when you've got that awareness and that, or consciousness, call it what you will, to understand that higher self, I like it, I love that sort of phrase when you use that, to understand that actually, that it is actually that I'm plugging into a source, and that's very personal, that's very intimate to every single one of us, whatever that may be, then we are energized beyond description, and it's something that we cannot achieve on an ego level. And that's why I brought the ego in, because I think when we operate from a determined human perspective, it'll get us so far. But I use the analogy of a mobile phone. If you just use its own battery, that's fine. It'll last for a while, but sooner or later that battery is going to go flat. You need to plug that mobile phone into an external source for new energy, then you can go again. And I think that's a great way, Ling, of describing, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're talking about with your faith in your source, whatever that may be.
Exactly, it's exactly that. I mean, I'm Catholic. So that could be a God. I mean, I do still, believe in something like that. But I call it my universe and my higher self, because when you develop yourself and you just be silent and be quiet, it's not about you anymore. You're actually more aware and more conscious what happens around you. So then that's not like a driven ego anymore, right? It's all about what it's actually you. I can't explain it, but I definitely became totally different 2 years ago. I'm not the same person. Yeah. I'm definitely more aware, more conscious, care about everything a lot more. I'm manifesting different people in my life that is serving me, and I'm serving them. And there's this energy. It's a totally different energy from 2 years ago. Yeah. And I don't know what that is. It's just when you connect to that source, it's that energy that you feel, and you just attract those people, attract everything good that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was to say to you, Ling, if there was one lesson, I mean, obviously in the last sort of 2 years, you've been on this amazing exponential journey, climb, call it what you will. But if I was to say, whether it's the last 2 years or your life in general, tell us about Ling with the vulnerability and the real deep fears as a little girl, as a young woman, whatever that may be, and embrace all that, Ling, and sort of for the benefit of, the conveying that message, because obviously from a business point of view, what you've achieved is very, very, very respectable, and that's being sort of I suppose conservative, but behind that is a human being with fears, with vulnerabilities. There was a guy called Peter Sarsted, and I think it was 1967, 68, and he made a one-hit wonder called "Where Do You Go to My Lovely When You're Alone in Your Bed?" And what he meant by that was, you can be out there with the front and all the, the high-flying glitz and glamour, but where do you go to, my lovely? Because when you're in your bed, there's only you and four walls and darkness. And one of the lines was, I remember as two children, I remember the back streets of Naples, two children begging in rags. So both touched with a burning ambition to shake off our lonely bow tags. And what I like to do is find out the real person behind this glamorous, glitzy facade. And I can only imagine in the world of professional makeup what that is like. I mean, that's not my world. I don't profess to understand it, Ling. I can only let my imagination run wild on that and think what that might. I've worked in professional football. That was an eye-opener. So yeah, tell us about that sort of, the little girl called Ling, the fearful little girl, whatever she may be.
Absolutely. Well, I actually never wanted to put myself out there because I was concerned about, always being concerned about what people is going to think of me, what people is going to say to me. That whole insecurity as a person, you know, and what if people doesn't like what I put out there? I had all of this like self-doubt and insecurities, and I've always operated that way. It's crazy to think that right now, because that's also kept me small, and that also didn't want to put myself out there because I was just way too concerned about what people's gonna say. Who am I? That whole I'm not good enough. Okay, so that's where I was coming from. I'm not good enough. Who am I to put myself out there? Who am I to be this amazing international makeup artist? Who am I to write a book? Like, even now, I still have those little things in my head. But growing up, this little girl, I've had a lot of physical insecurities, and self-doubt, limiting belief myself. I never really saw myself as this good enough person, and again, that's fear, right? Yeah. Like I'm operating from that, and that is all ego based, to me. And that was, I'm 36 years old now, so imagine living your life every single day and worrying about what people think of you, or if you're not good enough, or how dare you to become what you want to become because you're nobody, So that's who I was. I would hide, and I would not put myself out there, and I would look at as a makeup artist, even though I've been a makeup artist for 10 years, I still think, not now, but then, I thought that, okay, I don't want to put this out because it's not good enough. People are gonna say I'm a shitty makeup artist, or my skills is not up to par from others, And so I've always dealt with that self-doubt. It's that little maddening voice inside your head that I fight. That's your enemy, right? You're your own worst critics. And then when I started, my skills are getting better and better, and people really wanted to work with me. And even though you see that evidence, even then, as a makeup artist, I still had this fear of like being imposter syndrome. I have that, and everyone has that at one point. And I still do a little bit sometimes, because I was programmed that I will never be someone. And that's my own. That's my own thing. That's my own insecurity. I'll never be someone. I could never impact people. Who am I to go for what I want? I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was coming from as a little girl, and I've carried that through my life. Just now, I'm just more aware and conscious, and when now what I realized is the whole who am I, me, imposter syndrome, that's ego driven, because you're just talking about yourself and it's all about you. But when you come from a mindset of, no, I'm gonna be this person because I can share my knowledge and my skills, it no longer become about you. It's now become about other people that you are meant to serve.
Brilliant. Thank you for that share, Ling. Thank you. Really appreciate that. It's very sensitive insight. Okay, so if I was to say to you by way of, we're coming towards closing now, but if I was to say to you, if there was one message above everything or anything that you would leave or you'd pass on to the world now, what would that one powerful message be?
Don't be afraid to go after your dreams, because you can create your own reality. The world is abundance, and you are meant to be who you are. Step into your greatness, step into your power, so you can influence others to do the same.
Wow, thank you. At the top of this conversation, Ling, I also asked you a question. I'd like to ask you that question again, not because it was a wrong answer, because there is no right or wrong answer, but I'd just like to put it back to you because I found that your answer was powerful in its simplicity. And I'd like to put that back to you to see if there's any difference. And as I say, there is no judgment on that, whether it was right or wrong or indifferent. But the question is this: what does speaking from your heart mean to you?
Yeah, so right now, speaking from the heart means to me is finding your voice, finding your passion, and then getting that passion, and then letting your passion find your purpose, and so you can help others find their voice as well.
Superb. Dr. Stephen Covey's 8th Habit, essentially. Wow. How can people reach out to you, Ling, if they want to know more about you, more about particularly your makeup? I know you've got a wedding business as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. So I've got two things right now. So right now I am still an international makeup artist, but I'm because my purpose is to help other makeup artists create their dreams and go after what they want. I'm only going to be limiting myself to do luxury weddings, maybe about 3 weddings a year. So they can find me on Facebook, Ling Agaran. I also have a website called lingbesa.com. That's the makeup business. As far as if makeup artists, beauty artists, hairstylists that want to reach out to me and just have a quick little chat, if something that I can help you with, or if I can support you in your journey to becoming your greatest self, they can reach me on my Facebook, same thing, Ling Agaran. I also have a program called Beauty Artist Wealth Generator that I put out there to help other makeup artists and hairstylists to do the same.
Excellent. So, okay, well, all that remains now, Ling, is for me to ask you, is there anything else you'd want to add at this as we start to come towards a close now? Anything at all that you want to say?
I just think that keep going after your dream. I think that's a huge thing for me, is not being afraid to become the best version of you.
Brilliant. And I think all that remains now, listeners, is to sign off. And I think this perfectly summarises what Ling spoke about on her journey. And it's this: remember, whatever you do in life, always walk your path with heart.
That's right.
Heart, helping everyone achieve results towards success.